President's men and women accompanying him there to the state capture inquiry this morning. Well, my colleague Thulasizwe, Simelane and Siphamandla Goge are inside the chambers of this commission and the proceedings today. They've been listening to what the President has had to say so far. Let's gauge how they feel about what they've heard. Thulas, good morning to you once again. So what do you make of Cyril Ramaphosa's opening statement at the inquiry? I mean, did it seem a little cautious to you, even though he said that, he wasn't going to be making any excuses? Did you get the feeling that we're in store for some excuses, or that he's really there genuinely going to take accountability for himself and the party in general?
So it's been quite a lengthy opening statement there by the ANC President, Cyril Ramaphosa. Usually these opening statements, you would see Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo giving whoever is asking to make an opening statement a certain time limit. This didn't happen with President Cyril Ramaphosa, allowed basically to expand on a number of issues. Of course, there have been witnesses in the past who were also allowed to speak without any time limitations. But that's something to note. And that allowed him to sort of give an overview and sort of give an outline of where he's going to be taking us in terms of his submission on behalf of the ANC at this commission. And it's going exactly, Yuveka, as we had predicted, in that the themes that are coming up are that issue of the relationship with the Gupta family, or any interactions with the Gupta family and their influence around processes in the ANC, issues of political party funding in terms of inter-party contests between parties, how the ANC raises monies for its own purposes to contest and compete with other political parties, but also intra-party contests also coming to the fore, issues there about guidelines there being non-existent. He did signal, give a signpost of where he's going to take us on issues of deployment of people to carry out the mandate of the ANC in government, defending the policy of cadre development and deployment, saying that it happens around the world, but admitting that in terms of application there have been significant weaknesses. And then there was a sense of contrition there, where the ANC President says the ANC concedes that it could have done more, certainly in the period under review by this Commission of Inquiry, to ensure that there's accountability and that there's consequence management. They didn't do that. They made some mistakes. But back to one of the key points, Yuveka, that we had always expected, the question of the influence of the Gupta family on processes in government. Cyril Ramaphosa telling us, as far as his recollection is concerned, the earliest that he remembers of concerns being raised was at an NEC meeting that we've all heard about so many times, where Fikile Mbalula said something about that particular matter. Take a listen to how the ANC President put it in his own words.
In my submission, I outline how allegations of state capture arose within the structures of the ANC, and how the organization responded at different moments. Without going into detail in this opening statement, it is worth mentioning that one of the earliest claims made within ANC structures of the possibility that members of the Gupta family may have had an improper role in the functioning of the executive was a statement by Minister Fikile Mbalula at an ANC meeting in 2011. To my knowledge, the matter was not taken further by the NEC or in any structure of the organization after he had mentioned it. At the time, the statement did not prompt any specific concerns about the capture of the state. With the passage of time, more reports began to surface in the public domain about the alleged capture of public enterprises by private interests and the undue influence of certain individuals, notably members of the Gupta family, in executive decisions and appointments.
And tell us, Cyril Ramaphosa, after that, going to great lengths to explain just how the ANC has consistently discussed corruption and its impact on the party as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the ANC president talking there about while there is no official policy on donations to the ANC, the position of the ANC is that they would never knowingly accept donations that are the proceeds of crime and the proceeds from people who are seeking to influence governance processes. That was one of the key takeouts for me from what he had to say about those processes, but also talking about, how once the allegations of state capture and the volume was turned up on those allegations, they became subject of much contestation within the ANC itself, including in its National Executive Committee meetings. But I was also struck, Yuveka, by something that he said that I think many of us have been saying and thinking about, but to actually hear the top ANC leader saying it is quite something, where he talks about the ability to act on allegations of corruption partly relies on a balance of power within structures and alignment of views within structures of the ANC, and as well as the issue of the ability to appoint and dismiss people and dispense patronage. You and I and analysts out there have said this quite a number of times to say this is a factor in the extent to which people are able to raise their voices, the extent to which people are able to make themselves heard on issues of corruption, in that, if you rewind back to the evidence of some of the parliamentary leaders, Balega Mbete, I think, was one of those who testified that people were worried about, if I raise my voice on these issues in Parliament, I might actually be removed from my position. So to hear the ANC leader point to this as a factor was quite interesting. Interestingly, he then added that this was not made easy, but was compounded by the fact that at that particular point, while dealing with these allegations in these last few years, the ANC itself was weakened and factionalized. Take a listen to what he said about that particular aspect.
The ability of any organization, but especially a political formation, to act on allegations of malfeasance relies not only on its formal rules and procedures, but also on the balance of power within its structures. The alignment of views within such an organization is further influenced by access to the offices of state, where the ability to appoint and to dismiss and even to dispense patronage is concentrated amongst a few individuals. For the ANC, this was compounded by its own subjective challenges. The ANC took time at its 54th National Conference to reflect on these subjective challenges and recognized the erosion of its organizational integrity as processes have been manipulated to advance the material interests of certain members and associated private companies and individuals. This manifested itself in weak and pliable branches of the ANC. It also manifested itself with vote buying and gatekeeping, factionalism, and open conflict. This provided fertile ground for state capture and corruption. As I outlined in my submission, Chairperson, the ANC has, over the course of several years, recognized the existence of corruption within the state, within its own ranks, and in other parts of society.
Right, and then the President telling us that the ANC does distance itself from those involved in state capture, saying it took place under their watch, though, under the governing party's watch, and the vast majority of ANC members are against corruption, admitting the ANC did make mistakes following through on the mandate it was given by voters, saying they did disappoint and they did not always live up to the values that they stood for. We'll go back to the state capture inquiry and the testimony there and the questioning of ANC President. That's his capacity today, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa, when they come back from their